The implosion of the Sussexes. Meghan Markle's Archewell charity scam and as ever lies have finally been exposed, and an astonishing double blow for the fake Duchess.
She is hoping that she's going to become a billionaire as of all of this, which again is total insanity. I think the woman's expectations are so unrealistic.
They are at the moment facing a real crisis. Meghan and Harry's crisis, completely of their own making, is they have no major projects, no major money earners. And so they're more desperate than ever.
Tom Bower just uncovered something that Meghan's PR team is working overtime to bury, and the numbers are impossible to spin. We're talking $23 million worth of unsold product sitting in a warehouse, the Archewell Foundation declared delinquent by the state of California, a Netflix show ranking 1,217 on the platform, and a woman who genuinely believed she was on track to become a billionaire. Bower has called it right every single time. And what he's saying about how this whole thing ends is something you cannot afford to ignore. This is where most people get it completely wrong. People glance at Meghan and Harry and assume they're still comfortable, still untouchable. But Bower isn't just talking about money problems. He's documenting a full systematic collapse, one he called years ago, now playing out in real time in a way that no publicist, no spokesperson, and no carefully worded statement can clean up.
Their problem is that they've got no future. I mean, as ever, all her products, of course, is a complete disaster. She's got no Netflix series. She hasn't got any project at all. And they are literally wallowing in a maze where to go. And so predictably.
After years of research, over 80 sources ranging from former staff to royal insiders to Hollywood executives, the picture he has built is extraordinary. Manufactured ambition colliding head-on with cold, hard reality, and the wreckage is everywhere. This is a woman who walked away from one of the most powerful institutions on the planet, secured a $100 million streaming deal, launched a lifestyle brand, built a charity, and told the world she was going to change everything. By 2026, Tom Bower is standing in the middle of the wreckage, now with receipts. And the details are staggering.
It was a Channel 5 investigation as to the state of the Sussexes' finances. Now, we know they didn't move to a two-bedroom cottage somewhere in the middle of nowhere. They're living in quite a large mansion in Montecito. And one of the things that Prince Harry made very public when he left the royal family, one of the things that he was quite disgruntled about was the fact that his father basically cut him off financially. So really, they were in a state where they had to make a lot of money and a lot of money fast. He blundered in a video and said, the Netflix deal was an idea that was pitched to.
Let's start with the Archewell Foundation, because according to Bower, this is where the most uncomfortable truth about this couple actually lives. When Harry and Meghan launched Archewell in 2020, they packaged it as a humanitarian mission, named after their son, built around the ideas of compassion, service, and meaningful change. That was the story they wanted the world to accept. But Bower tells a completely different version, one backed by the EU Foundation's own publicly filed 990 tax documents. In 2021, Archewell pulled in $13 million, their peak.
Well, absolutely, but don't even believe that there were 5 options. What you really saw were Harry's and Meghan's fantasy narrative, which they call the truth.
Sounds impressive on the surface, but the cracks appeared fast. By 2024, donations had collapsed to just $2.1 million, down sharply from $5.3 million the year before, while total expenses hit $5.1 million. The math is brutal. They spent more than double what came in. And here's the detail Bower flags as the most damning of all. Of that $5.1 million in expenses,
I want to get into the details of this, Brittany, because the details here matter, given that everything Harry and Meghan do is top spin, trying to convince the world, and very often the mainstream media are sucked in, that everything's okay, but it's really not. And the first revelation in regards to Archewell is that the charity is down to just 2 staffers.
Only $1.25 million went toward actual charitable work. The rest, nearly $4 million, disappeared into salaries, security, travel, and administrative costs. The security bill alone ran roughly $2 million a year, pulled straight out of the charity's funds. Bower's position is direct. Archewell was never operating as a traditional charity. It functioned primarily as a financial management tool for the couple, a structure to handle taxes while large Netflix and publishing checks were flowing in. On its own, that's not illegal. Plenty of wealthy people operate similarly. But here's what makes Archewell stand apart from everything else. Bauer uncovered something that changes the entire picture. At its peak, Archewell had only 5 employees.
There's been leaked financial details from the Archewell Foundation that's quite fascinating because it shows that there's 2 donors who've given one of them 15 million and one 3 million.
Then, during what was described as a rebrand, 2 to 3 people, roughly 60% of the entire team, were suddenly let go. Some were reportedly told the charity was closing, only for Meghan's team to quietly walk that statement back. The website vanished without any explanation. During the transition to Archewell Philanthropies, Bauer calls this a classic pattern. When the story starts falling apart, the branding shifts, a spokesperson appears, and the hope is that nobody looks too closely. But people are looking closely now. California issued a formal delinquency notice, meaning Archewell failed to file required paperwork correctly and was technically prohibited from raising or spending charitable funds. For an organization marketing itself as a global humanitarian force, that's not a minor administrative slip. That is a flashing red warning sign. Now let's move to as ever. Because if Archewell is a slow-motion collapse, as ever is a full-scale public spectacle.
I'm hearing that they have huge financial problems. That they are eating into capital, and that they sort of, to an extent, been for much of their marriage into some capital, and also he doesn't have that amount of money. People seem to think that because he's the king's son, he's rolling in money. He never was. I mean, in terms of Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates, he's poverty-stricken, but they have financial problems, and a part of those financial problems are that Netflix is not funding the manufacture of the produce. The way Harry and Meghan presented the deal was that they would be partners with Netflix.
Bauer warned years ago that Meghan's commercial instincts were driven more by ego than by any grounded understanding of business reality. The proof arrived quickly. When As Ever launched in April 2024, headlines screamed that Meghan's jam sold out within hours. The PR machine fired on all cylinders. But the real story behind that hype is something else entirely. Anyone who looked closely at the inventory data on the As Ever store found figures that were genuinely staggering. Meghan is reportedly sitting on $23 million worth of unsold product. That includes 137,455 fruit spread gift boxes parked in a warehouse. In the previous 24-hour window examined, only 26 units sold.
Years ago, we were talking about Meghan Markle running for president. And what a decline, how irrelevant they've become today. Do the Sussexes still pose an institutional risk, or are they now culturally sidelined?
I mean, an institutional risk to the British monarchy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. A huge risk.
Really?
Absolutely. Because there's no doubt as they become more desperate.
At that pace, it would take 9 years to move the current stock, and these are perishable, goods with expiration dates ticking down. But there's more. Tens of thousands of orange marmalades, candles, and flower sprinkles are also reportedly sitting untouched. Bauer's explanation cuts straight to the point. The original sellout was manufactured hype. A limited number of units, just enough to generate headlines, were released initially. Then, inflated metrics were used to justify placing massive orders, operating under the assumption that curiosity equals loyalty. It doesn't. Consumers tried it once and moved on. One reviewer described it as tasting like a supermarket brand in a $36 jar.
Never believed that my life is open season to be commercialized by these people. To act in the public interest is to interest the public. I fundamentally reject that. Having my life, like others, commercialized in this way since I was a teenager, delving into every aspect of my private life, listening to calls, blagging flights so they could see where I was going. It was a time when everyone was in competition with each other.
Netflix's backing for As Ever, according to Bauer, is minimal at this point. The empire Meghan envisioned is buckling under real numbers, not press releases. And Bauer has the documentation to back every word. Now here's where the story gets truly explosive. The Netflix angle. Everyone assumed the $100 million Netflix deal was Meghan's golden ticket. Her direct path to a media, empire, lasting influence, and billionaire status. But according to Bauer, the reality behind that deal is far messier and far more uncomfortable than any headline ever revealed. Netflix, a company that runs entirely on data, algorithms, and measurable performance, reportedly cut ties completely. This wasn't a renegotiated deal or a strategic pause.
The hope was that Netflix would fund, and the fact is that Netflix's funding was very limited for the first line of what was never produced, and because they were not prepared to put up good money on something that was so highly speculative. And the proof of the pudding, Dan, is in the eating of the figures, because according to Meghan, the line was sold out within 45 minutes. That tells you that the produce was in the low thousands. Several years ago, Arnold Scarsese, the great American Canadian couturier, put me in touch with QVC to do a jewelry line. And I spoke to the head of QVC about it.
Bauer describes it as a full separation. Projects shelved, no new content greenlit. The streaming giant reportedly had zero tolerance for what internal voices described as mismanagement, inflated expectations, and undelivered promises. What went so wrong? Bauer points to one factor above everything else. The numbers never supported the narrative. When the first projects landed on the platform, engagement was weak. Netflix doesn't operate on press coverage. It operates on real-time viewer data, and those figures were reportedly disastrous. Bauer uncovered accounts of executives expressing deep frustration internally. The content wasn't connecting. Audiences weren't returning.
I believe it is clear exposure of what Archewell really is. A PR project, nothing more. It's disgusting.
It really is, Dan. And one of the things is that Harry and Meghan have always said service is universal. They're going to be doing charity in the States and all these things. And it's just completely and utterly false. It was just a lie from the very face of it. And we've seen this endlessly. Meghan praises herself constantly for being this great humanitarian. But when you really think about it, what has she done? I mean, even before she married Harry, she was part of World Vision.
The investment wasn't producing results. And yet the PR machine kept spinning. Every interview, every glossy headline tried to maintain the image of a thriving creative partnership. But Bauer's sources say production meetings were being canceled, marketing support had evaporated, and shows that were promoted as groundbreaking were quietly removed from any promotional push. In the entertainment world, that kind of silence has only one meaning. It's over. Behind the scenes, contractual complications were also reportedly building. Netflix allegedly sought accountability for content that was never delivered and for engagement metrics that consistently fell short. This wasn't just a bruised ego situation. This was a $100 million deal visibly disintegrating, and the ripple effects spread fast. With Netflix cooling off, other potential partners and investors reportedly began pulling back as well, concerned about attaching themselves to a brand that was overpromising and underperforming.
I mean, extraordinary that the non-disclosure agreements are so draconian, so watertight, that nobody dares sell their story. I mean, that is what's quite astonishingly clever of Meghan and her lawyers to protect their reputation and all the dreadful things that have happened in Montecito behind the high walls. But my book reveals a bit more about that.
Love on Netflix ranked 1,217 on the platform. The holiday special ranked around 1,500. Consider that for a moment. A figure with global media attention, a massive production budget, and a $100 million platform behind her, and the viewership numbers landed there. Bauer's take is unflinching. The content had nothing genuinely original to offer. No depth, no real authenticity. Just a carefully staged performance dressed up as a lifestyle. A calculated attempt to position herself as the next great domestic icon. What audiences actually saw was product being shifted between containers and presented as cooking. Sources Bauer interviewed said Meghan was so focused on appearing perfect on camera that it destroyed any warmth the content might have had.
Money is officially drying up for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. As more and more news of the dissolution of Archewell Foundation comes forward, it's very, very clear that this restructuring is due to a lack of one very, very key thing, which is money. In fact, Harry and Meghan sold themselves to a dinner table at $100,000 a pop to raise money for Archewell.
Genuine cooking content is loose, imperfect, and real. What viewers got felt exactly like what it was, a production, not a person. Netflix executives reportedly recognized within months that the content wasn't delivering what audiences had hoped for. People tuned in once out of curiosity and never came back. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Harry was in a London courtroom, making the overall picture even more complicated. Testifying in his lawsuit against a major tabloid over alleged phone hacking that occurred between 2001 and 2013, years before Meghan was any part of his life, Harry reportedly broke down in tears, saying, "They've made my wife's life an absolute misery."
Are they insane? What is happening? There is complete and utter chaos going on. The Meg and Herald are taking their rebrands far too literally at this point. Archewell, their charity effort, has not only changed its name from a foundation to philanthropies, which is even worse branding, I might add.
In a case about events from a decade before they ever met, he made her the center of the story anyway. Bauer's read on that moment is sharp. Harry has become so completely shaped by the shared narrative that he cannot discuss his own personal history without redirecting it through her experience. It escalated further. The judge reportedly had to step in 3 separate times, instructing Harry to stop pushing back against opposing counsel and simply answer the questions. A sitting high court judge had to repeatedly remind a grown adult to maintain composure in a formal legal setting. And through all of it, Meghan was in California posting on social media while her husband wept on a witness stand about how the press had affected her. The contrast is difficult to ignore.
Other expenses recorded at $2.9 million. Meanwhile, donations and grants to the group dipped from $5.3 million in 2023 to $2.1 million in 2024. Insiders skeptical of how Archewell, which doled out $1.25 million in grants in 2024, can continue. The source said if they're shooting out grants, then that's a net loss and they're not bringing in that much money.
Netflix stepping back quietly, shows failing to find audiences, a lifestyle brand drowning in unsold inventory, and a charity that California officially flagged for non-compliance. Bauer's reporting makes clear this isn't a rough patch. It's a structured unraveling, and no amount of media management changes what the documents show. Here's the financial reality Bauer lays out plainly. The lifestyle Harry and Meghan are currently maintaining reportedly requires somewhere between $400 and $600 million to sustain long-term.
I do think the problem with Meghan is that she never actually says anything in interviews. It is so carefully controlled, so carefully chosen what she's going to say that she says really pretty well nothing. Now, is it because she's got nothing to say, or is it because she's fearful that if she did move off the benign script, she would actually get into real trouble? I think it's the latter. She's clever enough to know that to retain her mystery and status, she should reveal nothing about herself.
Harry's actual estimated net worth sits around $35 to $40 million. They are not broke in any conventional sense, but without functioning income streams, the burn rate is significant and accelerating. Spotify ended their deal years ago. Netflix has gone quiet. As Ever is moving roughly 26 units a day, Archewell's donations have collapsed by an estimated 60% year over year. Harry reportedly even made dinner table access available for $100,000 per seat as a fundraising mechanism for Archewell. Bauer's reaction to that detail is direct. If you have to sell people the opportunity to sit next to you, the brand is finished. Bauer also suggests that Harry's ongoing push for UK taxpayer-funded security isn't purely about personal safety. In his reading, it's about relevance, a way back into British public conversation, and potentially a path to rebuilding a relationship with King Charles. But the king has reportedly held firm, refusing to engage on that front, regardless of the framing used in court.
I mean, an institutional risk to the British monarchy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. A huge risk.
Really?
Absolutely. Because there's no doubt as they become more desperate financially and reputationally and seeking a purpose they will do some very foolish things. And whatever Andrew has done, they will double the problem, because they will not be controllable from London. So I do think that after Andrew, Charles and William do have this problem with the Montecito royals. Yeah.
Bauer made a statement years ago that has only grown louder with time. You cannot build a lasting brand on victimhood. Eventually, the audience doesn't leave angry or frustrated. They leave indifferent. And that is precisely where things stand. In 2026, the anger has faded. The fascination has faded. What remains is a woman with over 137,000 unsold jars of fruit spread, a man who cried in a London courtroom about events that predate his marriage, and a charity that the state of California formally declared delinquent. From financial filings to courtroom transcripts to warehouses full of expiring product, Bauer was right from the start. This story has been writing its own conclusion for years, and the final chapters are now impossible to look away from. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what comes next. This story is far from over.